whatever break we could have. The next technical session is about to begin now, and I would gladly like to welcome our keynote speaker, Jaffer AA Khan, for the same. Welcome, sir. Jaffer AA Khan, PhD, stands as a distinguished architect and educator with an illustrious career spanning over 3 decades. His journey began with the attainment of gold medal in architecture from the University of Madras, followed by postgraduate studies at the esteemed Bartlett School of Architecture and Planning, UCL, University of London. Supported by prestigious Aga Khan Scholarship, Jaffer further solidified his expertise with a PhD from RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, under the acclaimed Practice Research Symposium program. Renowned for his design prowess, he has designed over 300 exemplary buildings globally, earning numerous accolades, including nominations for revered Aga Khan Award. As a revered academic, Jaffer has left an indelible mark on architecture education, notably as an academic leader in several prominent universities in South Asia. He is the distinguished member of esteemed professional bodies in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, and continues to shape the architectural education landscape from his dual bases in New Zealand and India. We are honored to have you here today with us, sir. I hand it over to you for your speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tawara, and just wanted to share my slides. Get the stuff done. All right, so just tell me if everybody can see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, we're able to see it. Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I must thank the organizers of the PJ Institute of Technology School of Architecture for inviting me to give this keynote. It's been quite a bit of a discussion the past couple of months with Debashri. I think she was one of the faculty members there, and thank you for all this patience that you had while this conversation was taking place, and thank you very much for all the organizers for having me here. Thank you very much. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the subject called cultural intelligence for sustainable future. I was there at the last session, and many of very interesting speakers indeed, and I must say that I'm not sure if I be in a position to justify the kind of quality the presentations were. So, but I come from a practice background, and so I've been in teaching for more than 20 years now, even though I was a visiting tutor faculty for a very long time. But I've been a hardcore academic for the past 20 years, both in India, Middle East, and now in Australasia. So I presently head architecture studies at the Aura Institute of Canterbury, one of the oldest institutes in New Zealand, in South Island, offering architecture degree and related programs like interior design and other digital technologies like building information modeling. So I head all the 3 departments as a part of my job here. And I'm also a registered architect here, so practice not that much, but a bit now. Just I wanted to start to contextualize ourselves, the kind of a view that most of the Western societies had on India, and particularly the way our culture was perceived by many of them, not today, but to some extent even today. So they would think that India is a snake charmer's land. So this is the image which was carried for a very long time, especially the colonists, even though they ruled us and enjoyed the benefit of the gift this land gave them. But the general image was that we are still a kind of a snake charmers land. But that's not so. That's different because we come from a very rich background, fantastic artistic and cultural part of cultural things that have happened in this country are happening in this country. And this country, especially India, sorry, when I say this country, I always contextualize myself to India because I'm basically an Indian. So it's very difficult for me, even though I sit on the 43rd floor in a tall building in Melbourne and talking to you guys now. Looking outside the window is full of tall buildings, which I don't really enjoy being part of it. But I really enjoy the kind of pictures what you see, the colorful culture, the colorful traditions, and the cultural background that we enjoy even today, lively, and that's the intelligence that most of us don't really try to incorporate in our education process because our education, especially architecture education, has been completely colonized for a long, long time, and hopefully things will change for better. But it's not so. But if you look at the global image of India in terms of financial and technological background, you will see that most of the tech companies are headed by Indians, and they love to have Indians. And these are just a sample. There are many more Indian leaders who are around the world. But it's not so in India. You could see it's a reverse thing happening. So you have the CEO of Air India, a foreigner, for Tata Motors.
I'm so sorry for interrupting, sir. I'm so sorry. Just wanted you to be a bit louder. That's it.
Oh, really? Okay. Good that.
I'm so sorry, sir, for interrupting. I just need to hear you clearly. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Quite, sir, yeah.
Or sir, or you can put your mic closer. Mic closer to you.
That's the closest thing I can do. Can you hear me now?
It's perfect. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So, so the reverse thing is happening actually here. So we have Wipro's CEO, who is a foreigner, and so we prefer to be appointing foreigners as the leaders here, while for people outside India prefer to employ Indians. I am one of them who is heading a school in New Zealand, probably only person heading a school in New Zealand. Things may change. I want you to connect this lecture with the kind of origins most of us have. This is my ancestral home in a place called Vellore. I'm not sure how many of you know about Vellore, which is a historic town. And this is my grandfather's house, a beautiful house which had a beautiful courtyard. And as a small kid, I was born and brought up in this house. So nights on a hot day, Vellore has a temperature of about 42 in summer or more than that. So we used to sleep in the courtyard along with my family. And then these tiled houses gave us quite a good insulation in the daytime as well. So this is the courtyard, which is not going to be, I think in a few months' time, my brother's going to pull this down and we won't be able to see this again. Luckily, I got a picture of it so that, I can show it to my grandkids. And my children have not lived here, but I've lived my life here. And this is an image which I carry every time I go. That's my father. He is the most inspirational person in my life. So when you call me Jaffer, you're actually calling my dad's name. So I'm known to the outside world as Jaffer through his name. So it's a big honor that I'm happy to carry on. His name has been inspirational. He's the first man who told me what architecture is when I got into architecture. I really did not have an idea what it means to me on my, the idea of what I'm supposed to do. So he went to the Central Library and picked up a book to tell me what it means. That's the kind of a close-knit family. So you could see that boy standing in the middle picture is myself. And I was a bit naughty guy and never listened to anybody except my dad. So always favorite of my dad. I don't know, it turned out to be that I carried my father's name. I still carry that, even though they call me Adam here in New Zealand, because that's much more easier to call than Jaffer. So it's interesting to see that I grew up as an architect, went up to UCL, the Bartlett School of Architecture, and got the Herbert Henry Bartlett Scholarship there, and came back to India, started off my practice, and then at some point of time, I had to migrate out of India, and in completing my PhD, and some of my international academic work that compelled me to get out of India. So this is my town. As you see, that is nestles in the valley of Eastern Ghats. The one on the right-hand side you see is the huge mountains, part of the Eastern Ghats mountains, and then there's a river on this side. What you see is now completely dry, and we used to see water flowing when I was a kid, but now it's completely dry. There are quite a number of lakes which sort of store the water, rainwater, and the fort itself used to have a moat around, where it was a kind of even though it was a defensive measure to protect the whoever was living inside the fort, but it was a kind of a storage tank for rainwater that was flowing through a channel right from the hills above. So that's it. And as a child, this is the kind of a landscape I used to see. The mountains were all the time hitting my eyes when I walked to school or play hockey or something. I was a hockey player in my younger days. So this is very strong. And there was a fort which was built by Shivaji Maharaj when he was chased by his opponents, probably the Mughals or something like that. So he came here and he built a fort on the hills, which is still very difficult to reach. But that's the part of the whole story. Landscape. We see two forts, one on the hill, one on the ground, which was built by the Vijayanagar kings with a beautiful temple inside. So that's the fort plan. So you could see in the fort, you have the red box is the blue box is the church, and the yellow box is the mosque. And this is a beautiful fort which has got all three religious places inside one fort, living in harmony. And then, of course, you have the colonially built Hyder and Tipu Mahal, where Tipu's family was brought and imprisoned here in 1799 until the 1806 mutiny, where his children were sent out of Vellore, and some of them were sent to Calcutta, some of them to Burma, and some of them to England, and all those things. So his 13 children were split, and some of them died. So till that time, his family was living here. It's a big story. So that's the beautiful view of the fort, and there you can see the temple gopuram. These are the impressions that one would carry as a childhood, which never fade away. And I think each one of you, from your own hometown, you'll see that there are certain things which you see every day, which remain very deep into your minds and deep into your psyche, that, it keeps on popping up again and again. So this temple, which is devoted to Lord Shiva, was a big, big influence on me, because as a kid, I used to go into the temple, play around. And then that's the mosque, which is presently unused. It's locked and chained, or whatever. The Archaeological Survey of India doesn't allow anybody to pray there. But there's a church, beautiful church, built in 1846. And it's very unfortunate that they have replaced the beautiful timber trusses with concrete, but however, the church remains uh, quite same from outside. They have not touched anything to it. So you could see how the screens come into play here as a part of a climatic thing, which gives shade to the corridor of the front. So these are the three major elements which one would see as a part of history of the town, which is deeply embedded. So when I was doing architecture, so this inside the Tipu Mahal, where these are the colonial structures built. Actually, it's not a mahal, it's a prison cell built for Tipu and Hyder's family. I'm sure you know Tipu and Hyder ruled Mysore. Srirangapatnam was the headquarters, and he died fighting the British in 1799. So his family was brought in here in Vellore, and they stayed there for nearly half a century after his death. So that's a big history. I've done quite a bit of research on that. I've published quite a bit on it. So I'm still working on it with some of my friends in the UK. So as a student of architecture, my journey started off with studying my own hometown. So this is I documented the temple first, and then as a part of it, I must thank Professor B.V. Doshi, who instituted the Louis Khan Award. And as a student, I got 1980, 81, and 82, 80 and 81 third prize, and 82 I got the first prize, Louis Khan Award in Delhi. And I'm extremely thankful, but that this NASA competition gave me an opportunity to know myself and where I come from and what I am and what is my culture, which is very important. I think the Khan Trophy still continues to be there in NASA, and happy that it's a part of the whole student learning process. Sometimes you see that NASA's competitions give us a lot of education. Than sometimes what we receive from the schools, but that's may not be true. So I actually documented some of these tombs and hand drawn these images. These are all probably 1982, so it's about 5 years old. I still have those drawings. I probably need to gift it to somebody who can take care of it. It was a teamwork of three students, myself, who was in the fourth year, and there was a second year, two students, my juniors, who participated with me in this competition. So it was a joint project, and it was well appreciated, even though we got this particular year in 82, it happened in JJ school. So Doshi himself was a jury member, and he was was appreciative of the work done. These are some of the buildings that you would see. I'm not sure if they are maintained well. That's my school days, and these are my two companions during my college days in Madras. It used to be called Madras, then they changed the name to Chennai. And that's the background of a hill in Chinji, another South Indian town, which was documented by us, and beautiful, and we won the first prize nationally for this. So this is the kind of an underpinning one has before you should actually start understanding what architecture is, because we are taught about history, we are taught about design, but it was all Western based and Western contextualized learning. So it's very different from what we actually come out and experience our lives. So it's important that this part of cultural, I call it cultural intelligence, which is important for us, that it inform our practice and inform the community and preserve some of this philosophical understanding of how in the past our community had lived and adapted to the environment. I'm going to run it a little bit faster. At the school level, we had, I would rather call it learnings and influences. So we were much influenced by Corbusier's Chandigarh, full of concrete. And we were quite excited when we learned about it, but quite disappointed when we visited Not quite disappointed when I visited as a student, but quite disappointed when I visited as a professional on a later date. But of course, we had no other go, but we wanted an international image, so we picked up Corbusier, and then we paid him very little fee actually, and he's one of the very few architects, or I could say he's the only architect who received twice a fee paid twice for a single building. The High Court building was paid twice, so he said he worked too much on it, so he was paid twice, and we paid it, and we're the first country in the world to have paid an architect twice his fee. So of course we had a beautiful influence of Louis Khan, and this is one of the buildings that sort of talks to people when you go there. I think some part of it is demolished now, but most of it is retained. Compared to the new campus, the older one actually talks to you, and it relates to you more than the concrete stuff, which we were obsessed of, or I was also obsessed of in my early days of my practice, which I regret. So the kind of influence we had was these architects were Western trained. So both of these guys were students of Bartlett from MIT, Harvard. And when they came back, what they produced was this stuff. Then we have very same generation, but a little later, Charles, who initially produced quite a lot of concrete stuff and later completely changed his approach, which I'm going to talk to you guys. And of course, Toshi has been a prodigy of Cobb and Louis Khan, and I think Louis Khan changed him a lot, and he sort of his work were reflecting the Indian ethos, so that was very important for them. I'm keeping a watch on my time, so I'm sure I'll finish it in time, not to worry about it. And of course, we had another icon, living legend, is Rajniwal, and wonderful architect. And of course, some of his buildings got demolished, but it's very unfortunate, though. I think this is a jewel, this is a diamond we have in India, which sometimes they don't even recognize. But that's a sad part of it. So you have, we're brought up in this kind of environment where you see concrete everywhere, and we were happy to project these buildings in our classes, in our lectures, in my school days, and we're quite impressed to go there, go to Kanchenjunga. It's a beautiful building, Kanchenjunga. Have a look at it. Go to Vishveshwaraya Tower or the NDMC building, or whatever it is. So you go there, you want to see it, you want to feel about it. But this is the kind of impression what you have. So what happened is that in my final year thesis in architecture, this is what I produced. So that's basically because I was completely misinformed, and I was this is what some of the professors would have liked. I got a gold medal, but that really doesn't really matter to me now. But what I produced is what these drawings are. And now when I look back, I see that this is really not my cup of tea, because this is very different from what I later came to realize who am I and what my efforts need to be. So this is one of the perspectives drawn for the thesis. And when I went to England in 1984 as a part of doing my master's in architecture, I came across this building which I fell in love with. This is Dennis Lasby's National Theatre. I mean, if you're a brutalist, if you like brutalism, and if you like architecture of that period, I'm sure you should go and see this building, just for the sake of it. But it's a beautiful building. I love it. I still love it, but I'm thinking twice about it because it did influence me in a very wrong way. So what happened to me is that I came across this book called The Art of Tantra in London. And this book was written by Philip Rawson, a professor. And I read this book, I was totally shocked to see that this is the kind of cultural information that I was never even talked about or never even introduced about. The history of architecture, we had a subject called cultural studies, but I don't think we were, taught about these kind of things. And I was shocked to see that this is the kind of a great possession for part of Indian culture, which was never part of my education process. So sad at those days. I'm sure things have changed a bit now. So when I came in the 80s, there was quite a bit of revolution happening, and I must say that when there was a lot of discussion, and there was a kind of a new direction in architecture taking place, especially an initiative by Charles Correa, and then it was later on by David Doshi, and it was the first time that A.J.K. Menon was talking about Indianness in architecture. So a whole lot of conversations taking place, and we were all part and parcel of it. So I was there in that context. So you can see that this book also influenced me quite a lot. And the artwork of this one lady somewhere, she was having Raza's painting as a background. So I was happy to see that. I don't know if it's Kanika or somebody like that. She was having a background. I was just saying in the last session. And you say, yes, it's Raza, and it's 1991, Charles was working on his Bhopal assembly building. Then I come back to India to do this IGNCA competition based on that concept. So you could see that this whole thought process was revolving around an art, literary expression, and architecture, and the whole thing was sort of a big influence for me. They're underpinning my cultural, roots into my future work. So the whole idea about this is about understanding the concept of Sri Yantra and the mandala. I think we all know about what mandala is and what Sri Yantra is. Sri Yantra is a cosmic image of our culture. It talks about how life is evolved and how life attains its prime, and then it goes back to where it originated. So in the sense that it's the concept of evolution, the concept of involution was part of our culture for hundreds and thousands of years, which we don't really understand. So when I looked at this, I said, this is the, what can I call it? This is the kind of, the biggest gift that our culture can give to us, with why are these things are not taught in school. I'm not talking about the Vastu specialists, the Vastu architects, or anything like that, but it's much more deeper than the inner essence of the entire stuff. That is what is missing. And if you look at the deeper aspect of this yantra, the center dot is the bindu, which is the point of evolution. And even in modern theory of architecture, we talk about a dot which evolves into a line becomes a triangle becomes whatever shape. So the triangle is the basic shape which is involved, even in Bauhaus principle. And that triangle in Sanskrit is called Mula Trikona. That is the basic triangle. So that's what happens here. So you have certain female principles and certain male principles. Then creativity is there, and the life is ever expanding. It talks about universe as a macrocosm, human body as a microcosm. And for everything, there is some sort of a limitation. So that's why it's bound by a big square, which has an opportunity of going into another exemplary composition somewhere there. So these are the gates and stuff like that. So big philosophy behind. And this is something that impressed me a lot. So it's tried to explore much more deeper meaning to it. And that is when I started, came back to India and started off my practice. And my practice, I'm going to talk about that. So I had a fairly widespread work done. So you could see that I was based in Bangalore, and then I used to do work in Dubai, Mauritius, and part of Europe, and then in Southeast Asia, and now in New Zealand here. So these are some of my early works. You could see that how the whole form of this thing, I mean, the idea of Schutter's thought process never got away, and it's still there. So it's very difficult for me to take it out. But then, the cultural intelligence information that comes in, then it softens out, and I try to articulate it in such a way that the building and the space becomes more meaningful. So these are some of the houses, and this is my own office and house in Velo. So that's where my studio used to be. Right now, it's become a law office for my brother. And those are the two wind catchers I have on the top floor, so that brings in cold air in summer. Some of the houses built through the practice, some international projects and some competition projects. Some won, some lost. But what I was trying to say is about this particular statement by Charles Fourier. It said, I think most of you might have read this. The architecture is not created in a vacuum. It is the compulsive expression of beliefs, implicit and explicit, central to our lives. When we look at the architectural heritage of India, we find an incredibly rich reservoir of mythic images and beliefs, all coexisting in an easy and natural pluralism. Each is like a transparent overlay, starting with the model of cosmos, right down to this century. So the whole idea of the yantric composition talks about the cosmic image of our cultural view, and it is their presence in our lives that create the pluralistic society of India today. So this is a wonderful statement by Charles Fourier, one of the most iconic figures globally recognized from our country, most respected in his own way. So when I came back, I started trying to see how I can experiment on these cultural principles, which were like kind of deeply influencing me. So this is the first building I did in 1986 when I came back from England, the IGNCA competition. Even though I got some commendation for this work, but I never won the competition for various reasons, which I realized now I could have been softened, more softer in my approach. But that was the age, and that was the energy, that was the kind of an expression one would like to have, because the imagery that I used, the narratives that I built were very direct and very forceful. So probably there was a good jury members, but probably it was not difficult. I mean, it was difficult for them to consume that at that point of time. And only thing is, Charles Fourier would have been a good jury member for that. So these are some of the hand-drawn pictures and a teakwood model, which had the idea of evolution and involution. So if you look at this, so it starts at Bindu and comes to the end of a swastika, which is the life attaining its prime, and then it revolves back to Bindu. So it's Bindu, Nada, Mula Tirikona, Parimeya, and Swastika. Swastika is a rotary symbol, which of course adopted by probably people around the world, but it's a swastika, it's a Sanskrit word for that particular shape, which is nothing but symbolizes energy and sun and life and all that stuff. So, so that is what is explained through this project. Just a competition, and the competition was won by Ralph Lerner from Princeton. Unfortunately, they never built it. They had to exit the project as a highly disgraceful approach to Congress in their hand at that time. They never got that project, so very unfortunate. So coming back to my practice, as I started off my work, I must say that some of the projects which I did, this is a mosque project, which was shortlisted for the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 1995. Then you could see how a rotating square and the building that floats around, which could have been in the center, it actually floats around in the corner to become a kind of a symbolic element which points to the sky above, which is the Akasha. So that's actually representing spirituality and existence of supernatural power and all that stuff. So this is particular thing where you could see the whole mandala in three-dimensional form is expressed through this typology, a mosque. And very interesting to see that how this simple mosque with its rotating square, which represents Islamic architecture, at the same time, square in its static form becomes a mandalic image. So it's a combination of both. Even though it doesn't have a dome or anything of that sort, but the dome represented more kind of a, on the walls, and it's not a dome, it's just a flat wall, which is an arch, which is split again into two. So the idea is that kind of whole, the aspect of cultural intelligence was flowing through the threads of this project. And it progresses much more deeper as I continue my practice. So that's some of the images. So you can see a split of image and the models. That's what the built mosque there. That's how it looks at night. And then the cube house. This house is another interesting house. This was built somewhere around 2004, where things were maturing in my mind. And then whole idea of trying to interpret some sort of a sustainable concept within this whole idea of the mental thought process. So this is a house which I built for my wife. So she financed it, and she took a bank loan, and she had a very limited money to build it. It's a street house. When this house was completed, many people thought that it was not a warehouse. It was not a house, but it was a warehouse. So we had to convince the municipal authority that there's no factory inside, but it's actually a house. So you could see that how the central court or the skylight court becomes a part of the mandalic proportion. And the entire house is based on the directional guidance by mandala, these kitchen, the praying space, and some of this, even the master bedroom, location of the master bedroom. So the entire building is almost like a cube. And that's why it's called a cube house. And this was done way back in 2004. So the house is still there, but it's with the tenant, so he's enjoying the house. And yes, we can revisit this house once in a year. We don't live there anymore. I lived in this house for 10 years, and it was a different experience. There's another time to lecture on. So that's how it looks. It looks like a warehouse. So if somebody has to come to my house, they have to find out where the calling bell is. You can't find the calling bell in this house. But somebody who knows where the calling bell is, so they will know where. So that's how it is. The idea is that I somehow felt that the house was not, responding to this. That was the whole concept, that it should be more inward looking. The moment you come inside, have a light, intelligence, everything comes. It's like a big paradise inside. So the house doesn't need any air conditioner. It's 100% rainwater harvesting. We had a roof terrace farming. We grew some vegetables, and the hot water is by solar. So it was like a house which was producing somewhere around 11.57 kilowatt hour per meter square per year, which is the most sustainable and most green, or whatever you call it. I don't know the word green. So sustainable, and of course this did not get any awards, so we didn't send it for any award. But this is a house which incorporated some of the traditional concepts. Like, for example, this particular stack effect, what we call as a venturi effect, traditionally in South India, it's called the Kalyana Kudam. In Tamil, it's called Kalyana Kudam. So it's like lifting the central living room about to take the hot air out. And that brings in a beautiful light, and the transparency of that skylight is actually connecting us to the sky above. So went on with the practice. Just looking at the time, so I've still got 10 minutes. So looking at this particular project, this is another beautiful school we did, so we could see how these traditional principles work around, and you have a dancing mandala which creates courtyard and spaces around. I'm not going to talk much about it. That's another big lecture. So that's how the school went. And that's the big school now. That's the entrance to the school. And the project which I wanted to talk a bit is about gardens. If you happen to go to Bangalore, you must visit. This is one of the largest projects which I built before I migrated to New Zealand. It's called the Gardens, and it's about 2.5 million square feet project. And the good thing is that the site of 16 acres had 588 trees, and the client wanted to get rid of all the trees. And I said, if you cut one tree, you will go to jail. So that's the law, the Forest Act. It's called as the Forest and Tree Act or whatever in Karnataka. So if you cut a tree beyond 4 inches dirt, you need to notify the forest department, otherwise you'll be in jail. So we said, okay, let's come out with a scheme. So we came out with a scheme to identify removal of some of those small trees which are less than 4 inches dirt, and then we started putting the towers here, and retaining about more than approximately about 500 trees in the site intact. And one of them that was a cactus which was 125 years old. So the cactus remained there. I hope it's still there. I'm not sure. I haven't been there for nearly 10 years now, 10, 15 years now. So probably it's there. And this whole idea, the towers, what you see here, is what we detail here. So this was kind of again that image that comes out of the creative principle. And that 30 principle forms the basis of this tower plan, and that whole thing grows into something like that. So this is how you see your satellite image. You see that all the trees are part of the site. So that those trees are just there. And one of the trees is number 588. The horticulturist was very much bent on chopping that out. And we had this landscape architect, a big guy from Singapore. And, but he was hell-bent on removing a few things. We said, no, we won't do it unless and otherwise we permitted. We really want to do it. But one of the trees was the 588 tree number, and that's the tree what you see there. So if you look at, let me just kind of take a little bit. So that's the tree. What you see, the horticulturist said that this tree has a life of 5 years, and so it has to get a big rain tree. So I said, no, let it be there. I designed it in such a way that we don't disturb that tree. And the tree lives still today. It's beautiful. It's huge, and the canopy is amazing. So we created this concept of above canopy concept and below canopy concept. So on the whole, this housing project was the first project in India which received a green, not certification, a green recognition those days. And it was part of the 2004 July notification by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, where every housing project of that particular magnitude has to go through public consultation. So this whole project went through public consultation. So and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Then the builders cancel the whole thing. That's why you have projects which have come up without any idea or disregard to environment. So, but luckily for us, it's not that the rules influenced us, but it's the whole idea that I was behind the whole thing to tell my client that I'm going to be saving those trees and plant more if I can. So every drop of water is saved in this project. There is 20% at that point of time electricity produced by the solar panels, what you see on top of the school, and there is a secondary roof on the top floor so that the top floor guys, 20th floor apartments are cooler, not hot because it doesn't receive direct sunlight. So a whole lot of things. Client cooperated with me that the top roof alone costed him about 5 crores then, so he paid for it. So sometimes architects have to put their foot down to get things done. Then so that's the three at very early stages of the towers. I think just when it was finished with the tree, this part of it was, it was part of the central plaza and stuff like that. That's the kind of very early image. And this particular Z bridge caused a big concern, fight between me and Mr. Clinton. Finally, he had to accommodate my thoughts and ideas on that, and that's how it looks right now. The future, what is future for us is that the problem that somebody was talking about, the architectural education part and how sustainable development goals have to be incorporated in architecture education. But, we don't need a sustainable development goals, but I would appreciate that you adopt that. But there are so many things which our culture teaches us, which is part of our cultural intelligence, which needs to be our sustainable principle for our future. Because we can teach the world like we have taught them thousands of years back through the concept of Mandala, the concept of Mulatirukona, the concept of Yensa. So we talked about how to save water, we talked about how to save ourselves from heat, we have talked about earth, preservation of earth, and we talked about a whole lot of things. Sometimes we call it as a Panchabuddha. So Panchabuddha is the 5 elements scaring people to adopt that. So it's forcing people to adopt, to live comfortably, to contribute to the environment. So it's not scaring them off, but it's about you sometimes compelled to do things. So people, this is just to show you that this is where we live. I don't know which part of the dot is we are, don't even see that. And we are moving at a very high speed. And there we are, somewhere here, not very far away from the sun. So one big flare can consume us at one shot, but that's not happening. The sun itself has got another 4.5 billion years to live. So it's softening up a little bit. We might be getting colder, and there's some climate change happening. So almost every day, every year, you have disasters happening, which we are aware. And the man is a great explorer. We started building, started conceiving ourselves living in another planet, which is we haven't really saved our own planet. So what's the point in going and spoiling other planets? Or I'm not against the whole thing about science. It's good to explore it. Probably transport some rich people there, live in a very close community, but I don't know what will happen to this planet. So let's save whatever we have. And this is not a joke, or this is not just a science fiction. This is happening actually. So these things are being built and simulated. So which means that it's going to be quite things. And in the off late a few years back, or still continues to be. I'll take another 2 minutes. We had NFT stuff, which is quite a big thing now. Now you have AR, VR, and a whole lot of artificial intelligence coming into architecture. But I think it's basically we need to understand what we are, where we are, how we want to go. So after all these struggles and after all these lectures and pressing papers, peer reviewed journals, and architects practicing, talking about sustainability, this is the fate of our cities today. So I would call it as the 7 wonders of our cities, not just India, every city in the world is facing this problem. So how do we mitigate these issues? And this seems quite common in urban areas, which is very unfortunate. And we also see these kind of things. Poor Lamborghini car in the middle of buffalo is a common theme, I suppose. We don't see buffaloes here in the streets of Australia or New Zealand, but I'm sure there's quite a buffalo moving around the city. And these cars, wondering, either the car is out of place or the buffalo is out of place. I'm sure the car is out of place. It's a beautiful planet. Let's take care of it. And there's 5 elements which I expectly architectural education is to think about is about the 5 elements which our culture teaches about air, fire, water, earth, and space. Space is nothing but it's all about sky above, Akasha, or the father sky in Maori culture. We call it Ragini, a whole lot of stuff. And somebody was asking, what is the definition of space? So the best definition of space is found in Vedas. And what it talks about is space is that which accommodates in space. So that's it. What is it? So we have everything with us, every intelligence within us, but unfortunately we need to explore them, we need to dissect them, we need to see how we can contextualize in our education and in our practice. The last word is architecture is about where we are, how we are, and where we want to go. And this is by Sir David Ajayi, a British architect, and he's done some wonderful cultural architecture in Africa. And, this is a question that we must ask in education and in practice to keep our cultural intelligence going and adopt these principles for our sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. And it was very interesting to learn about the multi-facets discussed within the presentation. Your expertise, I'm sure, has provided with valuable insights, and this learning will hopefully enrich all our discussions further ahead. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. On that note, let's take the technical session forward. We'll now split into different breakout rooms as per our schedule provided. Authors will automatically be directed to the rooms where their presentations are scheduled. However, you must log in using the same email ID with which you registered. Authors registered for the conference but not presenting on any given day. Let's say today, if you're not presenting, but you are here as an audience, you are free to join any room of your choice. To join the room, please send your request to the host or co-host in your room or in the common room. And you can just let them know whichever room you want to be assigned with. I wish you all an enriching and productive session ahead. Thank you so much. Let's all break out to our different rooms. Thank you.
What happened?
Sorry, sir. Sir, are you saying something?
Just give us a minute. I'm allowing all the participants to join.
Professor Jaffer, meanwhile the participants are in this room, I would just like to let you know we have sent you an Google form in your email as well as your WhatsApp number. This form is for evaluation of all the presentations which is happening in your session now, as we have a certificate for the best paper.
All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I will. Is the list of participants or the presenters the same as the one which was sent?
Which we have sent you earlier. These are so there are 6 participants in this particular session.
Yeah.
However, I'll just read out the names with their topics. in another 2 to 3 minutes. We'll just let me check the first participant is in or not.
Just wondering, it's 15 minutes per paper.
Yeah, sir. 15
And,
minutes, 10 minutes, they will talk, and next 5 minutes, we will have the question answer session. But however, if the speaker goes beyond 10 minutes, we may take all the question answer at the end of the session.
Okay.
And your comments, you would like to give the comments after each participant or at the end of the participant?
All right. So, which means that somebody has to look at the timer.
Yeah, I will only do that also.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, I will do that. So yes, the first presenter in this is already in. So before I go, I'll just read out the rules which are there for this presentation. Basically the guidelines are here. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to present their paper, and we will have a question answer session after each presentation. And the attendees, you may write your question in the chat box, or you also need to just hold your questions until the end of the presentation. Do not interfere in between the presentation. And also when asking a question, please raise your hand and wait to recognize. And once acknowledged, please state your name and affiliation before